Well, hello everyone. It's like your Matty Make 25 here, and you see right here is I went ahead and put together right here is for complication challenge activity right here, and you see right here are these lines right here, and I just use lines right here by the way just to explain about for like the complications to where something that may not seem so difficult there at first until it starts getting challenging, and I'm sure any students will more likely say that yeah, that after you get started with something it seems like, oh yeah, piece of cake. Oh yeah, I can. This should only take about 15, 20 minutes or so, and you're like, after about maybe a small portion of it, and then thinking that that something you're running into complications with something, and then you have to it takes a little bit longer just to gather up a certain amount of information, that type of stuff. But it seems like to where that whenever we start working on something, it becomes more challenging to where you just want to set it to the side. And a lot of times, I'm sure anybody will like say that's usually what happens. Is you just want to set it to the side. You don't even want to think about necessarily to where that like yeah, for like careers or for graduation, it's like one thing that you look forward to, but thinking necessarily to where that yeah, that whenever you're working on something and then whenever it becomes too complicated you just want to set it to the side. You don't want to have to deal with it, and sometimes it leads to where people may think that yeah, that you don't want to deal with it anymore for today, or maybe you just want to say I like to skip to the next lesson, something like that. But I don't know. I'm like, what do we learn while we are trying to manage to where we're trying to you know, work with the challenge, the time to where we can figure out, how to solve something, how to work something. And a lot of times, something's going to be, quite challenging, quite harder. And there may be some times to where people may say, if you had a choice between A or B, A is trying to work it out to where, how you can work it out to complete the course. And it's like if it's going to be for work or school or anything like that, or just say you'll be, well, you're just going to quit or skip to the next session or something like that. But yeah, knowing about, I'm like, whenever something becomes so complicated where you just don't want to mess with it anymore. And usually that I usually pick as to where that I usually think about is to pick a like one of the favorites to look forward to, such as to where I'm like anybody say really try not to judge something before you know exactly about what you're doing, as well as to where that after about maybe about an hour or two after you spend with it, and just figuring out basics about what's required, and then understanding the program as well, and then for whichever the work is that really I'm like this is something that more likely that we could be doing in the near future if you're working on something, and then just like math work, or if it's a documentation, spreadsheets or anything like that, and then so we're thinking about these lines right here that represent a paragraph, and a few of them are like paragraphs, answers, and questions and stuff like that, and yeah, that more likely that most of us will more likely think whenever something becomes very challenging to where you just want to say that yeah, well, I'm about ready to put it to the side, whichever, and not mess with it for a while. But on the other hand, that really that what do we usually learn whenever something becomes more harder? And I guess, like I said before, it's not supposed to put more pressure on the mind, but just thinking about it as to where, how much that has improved, from whenever we started. And then if we were to look at some of our old pictures if these were like paintings right here of like my student ID, or if it's any type of identification, you're like wondering from where you started and from where you came, and think about it. It's like for building your skills, from where you started to where this is how much you knew about this program, and this is how much you configured, and then after about maybe a year or two, and then you're like wondering that, oh well, it's not so bad. I'm like, yeah, that they want you to read about 133 pages within the 2 days, and sometimes it seems like to where not too many people more likely want to do that, and as well as very complications. But I could probably say that if we're talking about the future here, the future more likely means to where that anything that we're doing necessarily to where, yeah, you don't understand it. You know, that it's you're taking notes and you still it becomes challenging. And I'm sure some that more likely say that, yeah, that's whenever that it becomes too hard to where that they really just want to get real frustrated and then they just you name it, that they just really want to just set to the side, or they may ask for some help or some assistance at times as well. But so far as you talk about for the complication challenge, though, is that really about how well we are willing to work for helping to improve our education, as well as that, yeah, that some that may say that this is so difficult, from whenever my education from the early from the 7th grade, along with the 10th grade, as well as for high school years. Just thinking about that, the courses are just much difficult, especially for the good paying jobs, to where the type of a degree in education, to where that a lot of skills that basically say it's like that, anything that they have you doing and anything that you don't understand. But then on your hand, that knowing that I'm like, yeah, that there may be some things that maybe we can understand too, is to where that you just kind of look at the document and just thinking to your mind like, well, well, I think I can figure this out. But on your hand, that I'm sure there are many ways of how to learn something, but one of those ways could also be is like to where really I'm like, try to be patient with what we're doing. Other than getting frustrated about it, try to be patient with it and thinking about it, as to where that 15 minutes of studying for what we need to do, that more like it could make a difference. But I'm sure that anybody want to say something's going to be it's going to get harder and harder and harder, to the point you just don't want to mess with it anymore, and as well as understanding about what we need to do. But so far as the purpose of the challenge, though, is that really that I'm sure a lot of people probably say that they may wait until the last minute to get it done. But on the other hand, that really that if we don't do something, it's like you'll get this stuff done, and more likely that they probably say that, yeah, that any work that more likely to where that we may figure it out also, to where really it's the more we work on it, the more we'll feel comfortable about it, and more likely that chances are is to where you show great progress. But really, Mike, it really is that what learning is all about. Is all about to where that they're just testing you about how well we are willing to improve our education, and just to help others to knowing about for who we are, and how we learned how we learned it, and then for how it was managed. But other than that, there may be a number of answers, of course, but one of those could be, it's like, yeah, if something becomes so challenging to the point where really I'm like, the answer really is not what you call. It's like anybody say, yeah, well, just quit. Just quit. It's like, don't worry about it anymore. But I'm like, really? I'm like, is there really a reason? Anybody probably say, yeah, you may have to explain the reason to why you dropped out or you quit to begin with. And so like say, keep working hard and keep going at it. And then more likely to say that there's a better chance of understanding about what all we do by the time do we actually see, the important part of, say, a degree. So other than that, I'll talk about, thanks for watching. It's like for the complication, it's a challenge to say, Maddie made 25, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.